If you throttle down now, you're going to suffer when that market turns around. You cannot throttle down. You have to throttle up right now.
In today's episode, Courtney and I sit down with Brett Bortz, an agency owner that has grown over 12.8 million in the last 2.5 years since opening. And it's going to be all about data. So the data that he's looking at, that he's tracking, also being very open and transparent with going from averaging 850,000 in premium a month produced to now 600,000 over the last 3 to 4 months, and the data that he is tracking, what he's seen and what he's planning to do moving forward to get his premium back up to where it was and be ready to crush in 2026. So if you are looking for an episode based on the type of data you need to be looking at to get your agency or producers back up and rolling, or just producing at higher numbers, this episode is going to be for you. With that being said, let's start the show. Hey, welcome to the Insurance Buzz. We are your hosts, Michael and Courtney Weaver, and today we have a very special guest with us, Brett Bortz. How are you, my man?
I'm doing pretty darn good today.
Dude, we are pumped to have you. So I know that you are an absolute crusher. You guys are some of the top in the company that you represent, and I'm excited to dig into what you're seeing on the everyday basis from your successes, maybe some things you've struggled with this year, and we'll just kind of go from there. So, Court, you want to lead in?
You had a pretty interesting insurance story, so let's start there, and then we're going to get into a lot of your internet lead and what you're seeing happening in the insurance industry. But let's start with your insurance story.
Okay, yeah, like how I got into insurance.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm 28 now. I got insurance when I was 18, so 10 years ago. Pretty simple math there. Right out of high school, I had a choice of going to college or insurance, right? Because I had couple family members in insurance. I hated college, hated going to school, and so I took the chance with insurance and never looked back. And I'm glad. So no college debt, didn't go. And I kind of worked my way up. I started with Allstate for 4 years. We left Allstate. My sister and cousin, they sold their 4 books they had there. Very successful Allstate agents. And then I took a short break, and then I opened. And then we went into Farmers, excuse me. They went into Farmers. They hired me as a sales manager. So I can work with them for 6 months. And to be honest, I hated it. It was so different from Allstate and what I was used to. Farmers is always like 5 to 7 years behind Allstate is what I say. And that still stands true. Anyone that came from Allstate to Farmers, I think probably agrees with me. So I hated it. And I left after about 5 or 6 months of helping them build up the team because COVID happened. 2020 happened. So now that COVID comes around, they're like, hey, we don't really need a sales manager. And that was my cousin and sister. I was like, yeah, I don't think y'all do it all. So I left and I went to go start an independent agency. Did that 2.5, 3 years mildly. I really sucked at it. I failed at it, fell forward constantly. And I was like, you know what? I just don't like how much energy I have to spend to building all these quotes up. So I left that, came back to Farmers as a producer, went in the protege program to my cousin's office. And sold there for a while. I was doing first month, I don't know, 50 to 75, 50 to 60,000. I can't remember premium a month. Nothing crazy. Worked a few leads a day, 3 to 5 leads a day, and then ended up opening my agency May 1st, 2023, and here we are now.
Okay. So
Farmers.
I would like to know what you, before we get into internet leads. So because you're humble. So your office now does about, you just told us on an average basis, I know the last couple months we'll talk about this, but you're typically doing anywhere between 800 and million in premium a month. So I would love to know, and this isn't a short time frame. You just took over agency May 1st of 23. So you're just 2.5 years in. I would love to know what you learned from the indie space, from failing forward, that you believe carried over into the farmers world that has helped you be as successful as you are.
Yeah. Okay. So, quick thing. We have never done a million a month yet. I just want to say it because one day we will, and I'm going to celebrate that. So my goal is I want to do 2 million a month. That is my ultimate goal. I want to do 2 to 2.5 million. So we'll get there. I learned from the indie side is the pro of indie and the con of indie. And I think a lot of people ask me this when they say, hey, Brett, you've been with Allstate, been independent. Where should I go? Because I don't know if I want to leave Farmers anymore, et cetera, et cetera. So here's what I learned. there's pros and cons to every company. The pro to indie is that you have a lot of carriers to write, right? So this helps a little bit with retention, new business, et cetera, right? And you can charge policy fees, but not a lot of new business commissions. Well, the con to indie is also the pro. You have a lot of carriers to write. So what does that mean? You got a lot of companies you got to go through and keep up with. You got to keep up with underwriting guidelines, their platforms. You have to train each individual team member. Maybe you section off one team member to do certain companies, et cetera. So it was too much for me personally. A lot of people are very successful in this, but I like simplicity and I like trying to go through one company. If it doesn't fit, I like to move on. There's a reason our agency doesn't have a big Craft Lake book, which is our independent carry out set of farmers. We try to write everything farmers. And if we can't really get it in a good fit, we can try our best Craft Lake, but we move on pretty fast with the client. So that's kind of what we learned independent side. It was like, hey, let's just try to make a lot of money because farmers pays a lot of money on that new business commission. Let's take advantage of that. I did start retail without a book, and was May 1st of 2023. So we just built it up with that. Took advantage of the retail contract essentially.
Okay, and just out of curiosity, what's your book size right now?
Oh man, people ask me that all the time. I don't remember. I think it's 12.8 million in
Okay,
premium.
that's
Um,
yeah, it's just roughly, man. I like to always
yeah,
I always like to know because what you've done is exceptional. I mean, a $12.8 million book since May 1st of 2023. That is insane. So kudos to you. That's really incredible.
yeah,
And you were sharing that you have had a lot of success with internet leads. However, since June of this year, you went from averaging, okay, let's just say 850 to 900,000 in premium. So I don't exaggerate it this time. To now you've seen roughly a quarter million to 300,000 in premium
drop.
decrease the last few months. So I
Yes.
would like to talk about what you're seeing, since you are typically most of your 80% of your business comes from internet leads. I'd love to know the struggles that you're working through, what you've learned in the last few months, and kind of what you think how you're going to get back to that
Yeah.
850, 900,000 a month in premium.
Okay, to step back, and I may ask the question again too. So there was about a 9 month period where we pretty much didn't write anything in my book at all, almost. Actually, about a full year. And it's because I went to go try the Medicare side with my sister. That didn't work out. So from like 2024 to like, yeah, 2024, pretty much all of 2024, we pretty much didn't write anything in my book. And so we generated most of our premium in 23 and the rest of 2025 mainly. So with Medicare, just yeah, story there. But what we have learned, so we have a CRM that we created through the. We actually started doing it well on the Medicare side, and that's been kind of keeping up with our data stuff, so we can kind of track and trend, and we have a built-in AI on that. So what we were doing from January through June was great numbers, like you said, and then July happened, and July was a slight decline. I was like, okay, an off month, that's all right. And then August happened, it was a bad month. I was like, oh. Okay, and then September came and it was like our worst month we've ever had, and so it just kept getting worse and worse. And I was texting agents, "Hey, y'all seeing this?" And a lot of other high-producing agencies were like, "Yeah, we're noticing a massive drop, and this is countrywide." I was seeing it with Geico, Allstate, State Farm, Farmers agents, even some independent agents, and it seemed not just to be a Texas thing, but several states. So I was like, "Okay, there's something happening here." And then of course October came through, it was a little decent as well, and then November right now we're in a rough spot. November, December I think happens for most agencies, a little rough. Um, what I'm noticing is, and man, people probably can correct me on this, but what I'm noticing, at least hearing, is foreclosures down, auto sales are down. If you go to any dealership and talk to sales managers, those are all down. New business transaction on real estates are down. If you talk to real estate agents, which we have a good pull from, 80% of our business is internet leads, but 20%, which is still a good chunk, is referrals, mainly from loan officers and real estate agents. So when you kind
Hmm.
of talk with them and you got a good relationship with them, you can ask them questions, as well as talking with other independent agents like Goosehead agents. They use real estate agents directly. What we're seeing is there's been a drop of new home closings on average, is what I'm seeing through data from and once again, people's data is going to be different than just what I'm seeing in mine, is went from a 3% of new home closings wouldn't go to close, meaning they would cancel, they were trying to get it and they ended up canceling. It's went from 3% of new home closings not closing to 17% now. Excuse me, 5% to 17%. So about 3.5 times increase for not for homes not making it to closing. It's a pretty big jump. And then I think I read somewhere there's a 20% increase in foreclosures. So we're also noticing customers. I'm also noticing, and y'all may notice this too, if y'all bigger books than mine, a lot more emails coming in for customers refinancing homes. There's been a massive a massive tick up of emails that I'm noticing for customers refinancing. So I think it has a point. I think this kind of just comes to maybe the market right now is kind of in a rough spot. Um, and honestly, I'm kind of excited. I know this is really weird to say, but I'm kind of excited. And here's why: I have a really strong belief that when people see less opportunity in the market, that's when the most opportunity presents itself. Because that's when agents stop investing into marketing. That's when agents stop going out and getting things. They start to try to save money and backpedal and try to figure out what they can do to stay alive, which I understand. But because they're doing that, that means more opportunity is now opening itself up for me to jump in there, or people to jump in there that are going to get out there still. I mean, I've noticed this 80% of business internet leads. I'm the highest purchaser of internet leads in farmers that I'm aware of. We buy 700 to 1600 leads a day. 700 to 1600 internet leads a day. The next biggest I've found is 800, and that's recent. Before that, it was only 200 a day. So we do get a lot of data. What I've noticed through that data, like again, our AI and our CRM does track this for us, so it's not me. um, Help my tech team on this, is the uh, trend of contact rate, which has kind of been kind of a talk with the iPhone update as well as another factor. We are noticing a slight decline in response rates happening through text message. Email response rate's been the same, that hasn't changed, but text messages declined, but not a whole lot. I can't remember the percentage. And then we've had a good sized decline on calls, outbound calls. Now, I know that people may know the new iPhone update that helps screen that, screen calling and texting. That's been a hurt factor, but it hasn't been as big as we thought. I was terrified of it. I think over time it will get slightly worse progressively as people start to update their iPhones, get new iPhones, etc. But I don't know where they'll go. I've also heard rumors of Apple doing some stuff on that. And there was another question you asked, Michael, and I'm ADHD, as you can tell. I love to rant. You asked a question and I lost it. It was something about production or what we're seeing different over the last several months.
Well, so and you talked about it. So you talked about the decrease and where your leads. So both internet leads with the spam risk, with being able to get in touch with more consumers. It sounds like maybe you're struggling with actually getting them on the phone, and then you've also seen a decrease in leads coming from your centers of influence that you've established
Yes.
with real estate agents and auto dealers.
Correct. Yeah, I remember what I was going to say on the internet lead side. So when I was talking about people pulling back, for the last roughly 40 days, 45 days, I've noticed a massive intake in lead uptick in leads. The only reason in Texas I buy 700 to only 1600 leads a day, I say only because I have my filters to be unlimited. I would be buying 3000 a day, 2000 a day if I could. The problem is there's not enough volume for agency. However, in the last 40 to 45 days, there's been a massive uptick in volume, which means less agents are buying leads. So that means I can already see over the last 40 days since I think it was beginning-ish of October, agents have been pulling back on buying leads. I'm having too many come in now. This is the first time in a long time we've had a pause leads or lower leads volume coming in because of that massive uptake. And I've talked to the lead vendors. They have not increased marketing capacity. I do believe it's just possibly agents are buying less leads. That's just my guess. Because of how much we buy, I've never seen days go above 1600 often. I struggle to get 1000 or 1200 most days. Now we're seeing sometimes 2 to 3000 come in a day. So my only guess is agents are maybe pulling back on marketing is my assumption.
Okay, so you've talked about pulling back and how you're investing. You're like, okay, well, when this market tightens up, we see this a lot where
Mhm.
people will pull back and you're doubling down. So, talk a little bit about what that looks like for you to actually double down. And I would love for you to go into your team size as well when you're talking
Yes,
about
ma'am.
these internet leads. Like,
Yes.
what does that dynamic look like in your
Mhm.
office?
For sure. Yeah, it's actually a great question. If I can do the team size first. So we do have now I think we're down to 15 salespeople because it's been tough. We've lost four, I think five, actually recently the last few weeks, and reasonably so. It has been rough. And we usually buy about 42 to 84 leads a day per producer. That's kind of my key number. That's within the realm of what they can work. Some agents work more than others, so that's where that mixture comes in. For about a year and a half, though, 42 leads a day was like our sweet spot. And then we've hired some top performers that are able to work more. Now, what I recommend to other agencies, though, is you probably shouldn't go above 10 or 20. The reason that we buy so many is because we are fine with walking away from clients that take a very long time to sell the deal on. We want to go through fast and keep the process moving as fast. There's a reason why we don't really I keep my sales team away from when customers can walk in, completely separate off so they're not distracted. I try to make sure that they're able to focus on just getting on the phone and closing deals.
I'm going to drill down on that and then we're going to
Yeah.
move on to the second one. So, when you say, I want to keep them focused and we want to shorten the sales cycle, talk to me
Mhm.
about what leads are like your ideal lead for your salespeople.
Yeah. So, like I said, with internet leads, right? But there isn't necessarily an internet lead company, by the way. A lot of companies, people ask me, oh, what company is better? They're all the same. I mean, my data shows that every month it changes up and down, but we're sitting anywhere from like a 1.2% to a 4.8%. If you buy search lead QWs or
Wait,
exclusive
hold on. I'm
leads,
sorry.
yes, ma'am.
1.2 to 4.8% what?
Close ratio,
Conversion?
sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, close
Perfect.
ratio. So to make and to confirm, not necessarily conversion rate from quote to sale, but from lead to sale. So skipping that quote process, just straight lead to sale. I like to track my close ratios uh, for my ROIs and CPAs, cost per acquisitions, based on how many leads I buy and how many closes I get.
Mm,
So it's about 1.2 to about 4.8% through typical internet leads.
okay.
Now, when you're buying search leads, which is people searching QW,
Hmm.
Google or keyword searches, those can close higher. Those can get like 6%, 5%, even as high as 8 or 9% in some months. But they're also going to obviously cost way more, like triple to quadruple the price. Um, well, here's my thought. When some agents are always complaining, well, hey, not complaining, but giving insight onto this, it does cost more to buy higher quality leads like live transfers, which we like as well. Not a big emphasis on though. And then higher quality leads like search leads, search leads. Quote Wizard has some, EverQuote has some, Smart Financial too. And what I notice is yes, it might cost more. Yes, conversion rates more. Sometimes CPA doesn't fully make sense, but you also need to take in time to sale, a TTS. So when a lead is a high quality lead and they want to buy, their TTS is low, their time to sale, which is good for high volume producers. If your producer can close 3 deals that day versus only 1 deal that day, but you spent a lot more money to get those 3 deals, well, we only have 24 hours in a day, and 8 of those hours are to work. So we want to fit as much closes as possible in one day. So we want to try to get good quality leads for our producers so they're spending more time closing, not dialing necessarily.
Mm.
So I think there's a difference that, yeah, we look at cost per acquisition, but I also look at TTS, time to sale. I need to know how long it's taking these lead sources to close because that does affect if I want to keep buying them or not. If they might have a good cost per acquisition, a good ROI, but if they're taking 5 times longer to close, I might need to shop elsewhere.
Okay.
Okay, let's nerd out for just a second. So,
Yeah.
time to sale. What's your time to sale that you like to see?
So it's different. If you're talking about live transfers, I want to see it. They're spending like an hour on the phone. That's just how I track it for live transfers. I want to see an hour or less on the phone in total. Because usually you do one call closes on live calls, right? Live calls you want to try to do one call close. You want to quote them on the phone, close them on the phone. That's the goal. They have a pretty good close ratio if you do that. Um, so we want to see about an hour on that. They can be really fast. Whereas your typical internet lead, 80% of sales are made within 2 weeks, and I think 20% of sales are made after 2 weeks. And I believe that's my recent report. The percentages are not exact. And for internet leads, I want to see on your generic internet leads. These are not your search leads. These are your generic internet leads you buy from EWL, Smart Financial, you name it. Um, I want to see that we can at least get, I think it's like 65%. I think that's right, 65% within the first 3 days. 3 days of buying the lead, 3 to 2
Yep.
days. If you notice live transfers, the vast majority of them close within 1 or 2 days. But they're also 10 times more expensive, 15 times more expensive. but that time to sale is super low. So it allows us to just run through those really fast. But I use live transfers as a quick little nugget to people. The way they should look at this too is live transfers should be little little jump starts to your producers when they're having bad sales days or weeks, not constantly keep them on. Let's keep this volume up high. It's more of, hey, my sales producers had a horrible week last week. He's down in the mud. We know if you ever sold before, it's tough to get out of that slump. So you throw on some live transfers for them to get them that energy back so they can get some quick closes, and then you get them back to internet leads. That's kind of how we like to do that.
Okay. Thanks for jamming on
Yes,
that
ma'am.
with me.
Yeah.
All right. I love that it's the ma'am. I love that you're from Texas. It's like let's freaking go here.
I'm sorry.
No,
I'm
No, no,
don't
no.
offended
This
some
is
people by
great.
apologize.
doing
This
that.
is great.
Don't apologize. You can call me ma'am this whole episode.
Yes,
If you
ma'am.
can turn up your southern accent too, that
No. Get my cousin on here. He's really got it. He's from Louisiana. He's got a big country Southern accent. So,
All right. You just talked about some data you're tracking, and I want to get into that
yes,
here
sir.
in just a second. But I'm curious. How many products per household
Mm.
does your team average? Is it one, 1.5, or two or more?
Yeah, if you want to be honest, we suck at that. A lot of people have asked me that, and I'm almost embarrassed to always say it because it's lower than I think the average is, which I do not track. I honestly almost never check our policies, items per household, whatever you want to call it. I think it's sitting around 1.6,
Okay.
1.4.
Yep.
So it's pretty low. And it's just the truth. My team,
Yeah.
because I've made their job so easy through automation and AI, doing a lot of tasks for them, it has made them lazy to the point that they never even try to get the cross sell. They're just too quick to move to the next one. They get the home deal, they get the auto, whatever the customer's shopping for at that moment, and then quickly move on to the next deal without getting the bundle. And that has been something that I have failed as a sales leader because I was so hyper focused, fixated on getting them to be fast and moving on, that I lost the training aspect to get them to cross sell like I used to.
So what? Okay, so and I kind of already figured that. I've talked to enough high performers. I with the volume you're doing with the amount of leads, I figured that it was going to be around one. So
It's
what
been
are
as low as 1.1 and 1.2, by the way, for a while. It was
that? And
really low.
I would say with the volume you're doing, this is pretty normal.
yeah.
So and even a lot of agents that don't do this volume, they really struggle with the cross sell. Like that's just transparent. And I know this because we've worked with over 15,000 insurance professionals on the Weaver Sales Academy side.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
like that's the major struggle. That's why people work with us is to help with the cross sell. But I would be curious because with a single line product, you're having a lot of your lapse
churning.
you're
Yeah.
churning. So I would assume I did real quick math based off of the numbers you've told us. So you probably have about a 50 to 60% retention rate. Is that fair?
We have a 79% retention rate. And honestly, so depends how you look at it. So
Okay.
79% of the agency, but our farmers tracks it at 72%. But as an agency standard that I can see on my end, it's about 79%.
Okay, that's
Um,
actually that's higher than I thought it
Yeah.
was going to be. Okay,
yeah, but
so what are
farmers
you
tracks at
doing on the
72%.
what are you doing on the cross sell then after the initial business is written? Does that go to like more of your customer care team? Does that go to more of your inside sales team? Like what does that look like?
Great question. You're talking about after the sale is made.
Yep.
So no one's asked me this in a very long time. We have a really key aspect I do on there. I hired a role called an agent support, which is kind of a hybrid of a compliance manager as well as someone that helps the producer sell more. Their role is to immediately once the policy is sold. So we have an onboarder like some agencies do, and I also have a agent support, compliance specialist, whatever you want to call them. They're the compliance person, the agent support. Their job is to check over the policy and make sure everything was done right. Did we ask about the correct deductibles? Did we go over deductibles of the customer? Did we go over roof age, etc.? Certain key things that we know farmers tracks that we want to track to make sure we're in compliance, but also to make sure we're offering the correct things, the correct coverages as well. Um, well, as they're doing that in the back end, they may be texting or emailing the customers, some automations built in there as well. But then we have our onboarder, which is immediately calling the client. I think it's, I have to ask my director. My director kind of runs the agency at that level of operations now. I think that she has them calling them at the 7 day mark or the 15-day mark. I can't remember, to be honest. I've completely given that up now to them. So I
Good
could
for
be
you.
lying.
Bravo.
Good for
Um,
you. Yeah.
Yeah, I suck at that. I'm gonna be honest. I suck at that. I was like, hey, my director, she's intelligent. I was like, can you just figure this out? She's like, I got it. So, so I think she's a 7 or a 15-day mark on follow up. What we were running into is we realized we had customers complain. We were touching the customer after selling them too many times where we had customers complaining
Mm.
about it. Hey, I just got an automated text about signing my documents. Hey, I got an email about this. Hey, your person to talk about my why my documents are signed called me 3 times and yada yada yada. And then our life insurance specialist was trying to cross sell them after the policy sold, so there was a mix of that. You had farmers reaching out sometimes. It was too much, and so we're in the middle still of doing this rebalancing of when that appropriate amount of time frame is to be contacting those customers. But our onboarder does what any other onboarder would do. We don't really have anything special there. There's not much to go into it. The same process as typical onboarder would. Help them get their documents signed. Make sure they have the agency's main line, not the sales producer's number, the
Mm.
agency's number. We make them save that because we don't want them calling the sales producer anymore. We keep those roles split, sales and service, two different sides of the brain. And so we have them get the agency's number for service. So any questions they can call the service teams. The sales team can do what they're good at, sell. And we just kind of wrap that over, and then we do follow up on renewals. To be honest, because of manpower, we only call clients now on renewals that have a 15% increase, and I think we are now lowering that down to a 7%, is kind of what we're coming up with now that we're getting caught up on a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
So those are kind of our in-house practices right now, but there's nothing really crazy about it. I don't know why. I mean, I've met plenty of agencies, like you said, that have like over 80% retention, but they're not maybe producing as much.
Yeah. Well, I've also met plenty that have less than a 50% retention. So
Really?
you're
Yeah.
doing good.
Yeah.
Like, oh
Huh.
shit, dude. Yes. That's actually, you have a higher retention rate than I thought you
Really?
would. So yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Farmers tracks at 72%. It's like 71.9.
Okay.
But my internal side, because customers make it for non-renewals and stuff, we're tracking at 79%. So whatever you want to, you could just say 72. So 72% if you even call it at that. But you're saying 50 and 60%. I have
Oh,
seen some agencies
okay.
at 62% on auto, which is rough.
Yeah. Oh
Holy
yeah.
cow.
It's not good. It's not a good business practice.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, that's really rough.
All right, I want to go back to you said you started noticing a
July.
downtick in July,
Yes, ma'am.
August, and September. At what point did you go, okay, I need to start making some changes? Because somebody right now may be saying, oh, this might just be a slump. Like, what were the key indicators of there's some issues here?
Um, this sounds completely unhumble. One key indicator was so August hit and that was bad, right? We were trending bad the whole time. In end of August, like, oh, this is a bad month. I was like, September happened. I was like, we cannot have another bad month like August, guys. Let's kick it up. We increased our activity. So, man, I could even if I even pull it up, wish I had it right now. Our quote sheet, our total quote volume, and because I don't have it in front of me, in I think August was like 3,800. Um, in September was 5,000 quotes. We went up by 1,200 quotes. We dramatically increased our activity in September, I believe, and I could pull it up real quick. And then it's same with October, November, et cetera. We're increasing our quote volume, but our close ratio went from a 12.8, so that's total of quotes we did. Now, this is where I actually track this because I do for my producers. They like to know what their individual close ratios are. So I would do here it is. I would do the number of quotes they have to their closes, which would usually sit us at about a 12.8% close ratio on average when we had good months. And it dropped in half in August. From July to August, it dropped from here we are, it dropped from a 10% in July to a 8% in August, to a 6.8% in September, to a 6.9% in October. But our quote volume went from 4,300 July to 4,700 August to 5,000 September, 6,000 in October, but our premium kept going down. So we
Okay.
were, yep,
This is so good because I think this is the juice right here.
yeah,
Is that what's the lever that you pull when you're
correct.
okay? So you throw up activity, close rate still goes down. What's your next move?
Yeah, so now we need to go in. Okay, so what is the detailed thing of what is going on? Why are we decreasing? And we did develop our own CRM for the last 2 years, so we have a lot more access to our data than probably most agents. So I had to go in and start asking our AI, hey, I need you to analyze what is our response rate in text messages from January through June compared to July through September, I think is when I ran this, and what's going on. So I didn't really notice any decline on response rates. So then that was like, well, something now. Okay, when I by the way, skip ahead real quick. Into September and October, we have noticed a decline in response rates. That's when the new iPhone update came out, but it
Mm,
wasn't much. I like if I remember, it was like a 2 to 5% decline. It was not massive. Some agents reported a much higher decline than that. Some agents told me 50% decline, but nonetheless. So I'm like, okay, well, if it's not a response rate, then it's not necessarily my agents aren't working, automations are failing. That's not it. So it's not the response rate issue. Okay, well then what is close ratio per zip code? Maybe we need to recheck zip code. So I pull up, I track that as well within our CRM. Let's pull up that. Close ratios maybe declined like a 1%, like a 0.1% across the board in Texas, maybe a 0.8%, a 1% some areas. It was not massive. It was like, okay, so it means farmers isn't doing massive changes. So farmers isn't doing massive changes to our close ratio because if they were, our conversion rate from quotes to closes per zip code would have tanked, but
mhm.
it really didn't. So I was like, what is going on? Why is our close ratio for my producers though going down, but my zip codes isn't changing? Stuff wasn't making sense. Numbers weren't
Mhm.
making sense. Data wasn't making sense, and numbers never lie.
Yep.
And I'm now in that process right now to be anticlimactic. I'm in the process now of still reevaluating things, and that's where I've kind of came into now the whole market. It seems like customers are still interested in buying, or they're ghosting us more, and we're just not getting them to closing. And that's kind of like honestly what we're running into. I'm trying to think if there's any other data I can share on that, but
So
it's kind of anticlimactic.
all right, let's just talk through this just real
Yeah.
fast because in you talking, like I instantly go to two places in my mind. So
Mhm.
um either the follow up's not there because you've increased lead volume so much, which I'm
Correct.
could
That
guess
happens.
that you've probably looked into that data or you don't have the data yet to see that, or two, your producers are very heavily selling off of price, but with the zip code, you would think that that would affect the closing rate,
Hmm.
to where if you just weren't as competitive, that would equate to less closing rates. So, like, have you looked at either one of those points to see if either one,
Yeah.
because increase in volume can be great, but if, like what you're saying, like if you're not talking to as many people or maybe their follow ups, but it sounds like a lot of this is automated. So I'd be
Right.
curious because it's dropped almost 4%.
Yeah, yeah, pretty bad. In September and October is actually almost half of what we were used to in our close rate. So I do want to say that you actually hit the nail on the mark, Michael. That's why I know you know what you're talking about. When you introduce, this is the negative side of a ton of automation and doing a lot of the work for the producer. They get lazier. It is the truth. Their follow-up gets worse, which is why I want to probably generate some stuff to help track those metrics better. I have noticed decline in follow-up. Activities increased by about 40% overall, what I've noticed, if you average everything out. But follow up for my bottom half of producers has tanked because their production, it's a sales roller coaster, right? When
Yep.
you're selling bad, you start putting in less effort. You start putting less effort, what happens? You start selling even worse.
Yep.
And your top performers, they start doing bad. They can't because they need that paycheck, so they start performing even higher. So I have noticed that on my top half, I think my follow up, they've stayed about the same in follow up, maybe slightly declined, but my bottom half has really suffered on follow up, and so that is a key aspect to it as well.
Agency Coach AI, the most advanced AI software solution for insurance professionals, built by insurance professionals. Whether it's transcribing calls in real time, being able to role play, offering coaching in real time, 24/7 at you and your team's fingertips, reporting directly to you, the owner or manager, every single day so you know exactly what's going on, what conversations are being had. Yes, we can also analyze against talk tracks and scripts, the ability for you to have a training library at your team's fingertips to make sure everyone's getting trained the same way every single time. Make sure you click the link below. Check it out. The reviews have already been incredible. Check us out, Agency Coach AI. Let's get back to the show. Okay.
Okay, so I want to talk about as we turn the corner because we're going into 2026, and
Hmm.
this was kind of what we
Excited for
talked
that.
about at the beginning about most people are pulling back. You're going to double down. When you look at 2026, what are you focused on?
Mm.
Um, I want to reset my zip codes and double check my lead providers. That's what I'm actually doing this week. Literally all of Saturday. I'm not even joking. I spent 16 hours Saturday, 6 hours Friday, and 2 hours on Sunday just rechecking all data, just going through a massive amount of data. I'm single. I got no kids. I can do that. Right? So I can do that. But hopefully when we update our AI, I can do most of it. Um, so what I'm going to focus on is I want to try to check, and I recommend this to other agents, check in other states, see if you can get licensed in other states, and check with other states too. We're noticing some states having less of a decline in the market than others, so maybe researching that. And certain markets that have been really affected have been like Texas is one of the biggest that has been affected by this down decline. But we have to remember that I've been doing this 10 years. My cousin's doing it for 14, 15 years. We've noticed this, guys. Every time there's a down in the market, it always comes back up, obviously. But it's about surviving that 6 month period, usually, roughly around that 6 month. This one might be a little longer. 6 month period of a downcline where a lot of agents just start jumping ship. Well, you know what happens after that? There's a lot more opportunity now because all the more veteran agents have left the market. Maybe you have some new ones coming in. So there's so even though there's that big downtick for about 6 months, there's a massive uptick for about 6 or 8 months as well, where you're just eating up the market. So if you throttle down now, you're going to suffer when that market turns around. You cannot throttle down. You have to throttle up right now. Now you have to make wise decisions. You need to look at your ROI stricter. You need to look at your cost per acquisition stricter. You need to get to the cent to the dollar amount of, hey, what can I do to cut some costs possibly, but I can't fall back. I need to make sure my team is staying motivated in the moment, because if you kill their motivation, you cut their leads, you cut their sales coming in, they're now not going to be motivated for when that uptick comes. And just like, I see Tony Robbins that says that a lot of stock market people say, do not stop investing when the market's good, because some people say don't invest in the market is because good when it's shaky, I guess is what I'm saying, because it could fall, because you don't know if it's going to fall or not. So if we don't know when it's going to uptick, we don't know when it's going to downtick. We just need to make sure we're prepared. We are suffering. That is the fact of the matter. I'm an optimistic person, but the fact is we are suffering. Our sales are down. It's basic numbers. But does it mean I'm going to sit here and complain about everything? No, I need to figure out how to make this survive, because I have to. There is no option B. We are going to have to make it. Here's what I've even thought of, guys. Selling a section of my book on premium, sell $3 or $4 million out just so I have cash flow, just an instant cash incentive to keep things going. Those are options as well. I know agents don't want to hear that, but that is an option out there, selling a small portion of the book. And that way you can keep things going, keep things pushing, and get ready for a big investment when that market does uptick as well. That is something I'm looking into.
I absolutely freaking dig everything you just said, Brett. That could have been a mic drop moment.
Definitely, the editors are like, "I'm so excited! That's the clip right there."
I love. So there's a few things I really like about that. So number one, that strategy you just shared right there at the end. If you're with a captive carrier that allows you to sell a book or indie,
Yes, sir.
that's an
If you
easy
are.
way to potentially get some immediate cash to do something with, especially if you believe it's kind of like a Berkshire Hathaway. They've cashed out on some of their investments. They're holding a ton of cash right now. They're anticipating some opportunities to deploy more cash to make it work. And that's exactly what you're saying. Like, does it make sense to get potentially cash heavy right now because you believe the acquisition process for new business will cost less than going out and buying a book of business? So I like that strategy. That's one I haven't heard of here recently. A couple guys behind the scenes have talked about that. So thank you for sharing that. The other thing that I just want to reiterate that you just really hammered down is doubling down even though it's tough. So just because it's tough doesn't mean you just ease up off the gas pedal. And while you didn't say this, the one thing that I've experienced in business and talked to a lot of business owners about is if you decide to let your foot off the gas pedal, guess what that gives your team the opportunity to do? It's top-down leadership. You're trying to figure this out just as much as your team. And if you decide okay, things are tough right now, let's lighten up a little bit. The problem with that is how much it negatively affects your culture, and to just come on and then all of a sudden things are good, it's back onto the gas pedal. That just doesn't work. It's a delayed effect in everything you do. And there's a cost to action and there's a cost to inaction. And what you just said is we're going to double down. We're going to continue to really look at the data, make data-driven decisions moving forward, maybe try some new things, and eventually you are going to figure it out. And when you do figure it out, and hopefully the market will lighten a little bit, you're going to be ready to capitalize on the market, while it sounds like a lot of your peers have maybe pulled back a little bit because you talked about how you've had an influx of internet leads been able to buy, which means peers have actually pulled back from some of their marketing strategy, which is going to allow you to really capitalize and maximize when the market does open back up. So kudos to you. That's incredible.
Yes. Yeah. And I want to say is you got to make cuts during these times. I wasn't, to be clear, I think some agents are like, wow, he's just high up on copium, on hopium. We are making cuts. Yeah, right. We are making cuts in certain ways. Like because that lead volume is now upticked, I can now cut off maybe lead sources that are not as good, maybe certain zip codes that are on the fence of being good, bad, they're right there on that fence. So I can cut off those and focus on the more heavier stuff that I right now over this hopefully short term drop, and then we can ramp back up and as things start to open back up again. But
Yeah.
you're right, you have to ramp up before that happens because if you,
Mhm.
it's a delayed effect. If let's say January, and I'm got high hopes for January. January, February, always great months, right? But let's say January's coming and you wait until end of January or February because you start finally seeing an uptake and you finally start investing now. Well, now you've lost a month or two of production.
Yep.
So you got to start. You got to start before it happens.
You know what? Hopium's a magical thing. And you know what the number one characteristics of successful salespeople is, Brett?
What is that? Yeah,
Optimism. They're
optimism.
positive, optimistic people,
Yeah,
and
when you
you
say
have
that.
to, because in sales you get kicked all the time, and that's exactly you're leading, and there's no question why you've established such an amazing agency culture team. Not that it's always easy, but you are someone that is extremely positive and optimistic and looking for the good and trying to figure out how to get through the tough times, and that's automatically going to make you more successful than your peers that are like, man, this sucks right now, like there's no hope, like we're just going to cut back and try to survive. Well, honestly, you're either trying to win the game, you're either playing to win or you're playing not to lose. And I find that when you play to win, you win more often than playing defense. And so that's exactly what you're doing, and it's going to serve you very well in the future. So, Brett, if
Appreciate that.
you good?
Yeah,
If
this is so good.
yeah, this was incredible. We want to be respectful of your time. If someone wanted to follow you, reach out, connect with you, what's the best way for them to do that?
Yeah, Facebook. I think so. Just Brett Bortz on Facebook. I'm mainly more on our Incendo page. I think it's still up. We might have turned it on. Incendo IQ is our CRM, so
Okay.
that's kind of what we're. That's kind of more of my new focus now is jumping into that, especially for next year,
Mhm.
and just doing that. And honestly, Michael, to into that to what you're saying is, I'm also Christian, so it's been a lot of prayer, man, to get through this. Same with my family, and it's been a lot because it is tough. It's been tough financially, and we just have to keep praying and keep pushing forward on that. But y'all are more welcome to find me on Facebook, Brett Bortz. Message me on there. My email is brett@incendo.com. But we're also, if you want to find and look at more data stuff, you can follow us. I'll start making posts on Sendo IQ, our CRM stuff. We'll make posts of how to track your data more effectively so agents can follow and learn.
Heck yeah.
Amen to that.
Yeah.
Woo, that's exciting stuff. Okay, and we'll make sure we'll drop it in the show notes if you want to connect with Brett directly, if you want to learn more about when he was diving into all the CRM, all the different data points, how you can make it super easy for your agency. Just let him know that you came from the buzz. We want to make sure that we bring as many people your way because it sounds like data is your
It's key.
baby, and the more data that you have, the more data-driven decisions that you can make, which just makes your job easier as an insurance
Yeah.
professional. So thanks for
Control your data, not the insurance companies.
there we
Mm.
go.
That's fair. That's
Yeah.
good. Well, Brett, thank you for your time. For all of those of you who decided to join us today, as always, time and attention are by far our most important assets. We appreciate you joining us on the buzz. Go out and make it great.